So you are educating them and you're getting them to a point ultimately where they are ready to say, you know what, I trust this person at least enough to get on a call or go have coffee or whatever it is with them. So that's the real magic of the magic middle. On today's episode, we're going to talk about email marketing and newsletters. Not exactly the sexiest topic, but when you see some of the stats and some of the research and some of the experience that we've had that we can share about this, you'll see that it may be one of the most valuable things that you can do for your business.
The importance of a newsletter, real quick, of how we didn't mention, people might think, well, I don't have anything to sell immediately, or I don't have a lot of offerings. And talk to me about what we tell our clients about nurturing. So a big part of our jobs with our clients now, we're big believers of the middle of the funnel, right? The nurturing, because not everyone's always ready to buy constantly, right? So, but you want to do what? You want to stay in front of the people that your target market, your target audience. You want to stay in front of them. So when they are ready to buy, they say, oh yeah, they do that. So tell us a little bit about that and how that is the real importance of email marketing, just so you can stay relevant.
Mm-hmm. The value of a newsletter or an email subscriber was something like 10 times as much as a social media follower. So we've got an actual number that can give some credibility to that claim. And the actual number is that for every dollar spent on email marketing, on average, companies return $38. That is a 3,800% ROI if my public math is working. I don't think that a social media follower or any other type of, we'll say, community member from a marketing standpoint comes close to that. So that's the first number that when you're thinking about where you're going to spend your marketing dollars, that really jumps out as something that that needs to be reckoned with before we even talk about any other type of marketing efforts.
Absolutely. That's a very large number. So talk about the crucial role in building sustained customer relationships.
There's a couple of different things to think about when we're building out a marketing strategy, and specifically when it comes to email marketing, we're thinking about, are we getting new customers through this? Is this helping us to form stronger bonds with our existing customers? And then what about everybody that's in between? And the reason I say that is because there's not just those two people that are in our world that we care about, right? We're not just trying to bring strangers in and then make them customers right away. We have this tiny little percentage of people that have never heard of us before, and then they get into our world, they subscribe to a newsletter or a blog or something, and then they immediately become a customer. That's like 1 to 3%. About 97-ish% of people are not going to do anything right away. A big percentage of those will never do anything ever. But we've got this like magic middle. And I say middle, even though it could be something like 75 to 90% of everybody that's on your email list. That is kind of that's that magic middle that we are putting most of our marketing content towards.
And we'll talk about that on a later podcast of how to get those people into the email list. But today we're just talking about the newsletter itself. Okay, next up, let's lay the foundation for a successful newsletter. So let's talk about audience identification. Let's talk about key objectives. So what we're even tracking, looking for, and then content strategy. That is going to be a huge part in email marketing.
Exactly. So yeah, the question we get a lot is, all right, so we've got an email list. Mm-hmm. We've got these people that we've known for a long time, or maybe we've tried some marketing. So what the heck do we actually talk about? Is that a good way to phrase the problem here? So,
well, because everyone has newsletters. This is not new.
Right.
Everyone is subscribed to some sort of newsletter. Well, how do they get their content? And that's a lot of content.
Right. So the first mistake that we see is every business that's new to this, they say, well, we got to start pushing this particular product, or we want to tell people about this service. And that is the exact wrong way to start, right? Because think about what you're doing there. You're saying, hey, I know you haven't heard from me in a while, or maybe you've never heard from me in a marketing context. I want you to buy something right now. That's a really off-putting way of restarting or starting a relationship. So the place we try to begin all of our content strategy is, okay, what is that unique and special knowledge or experience that you have that you find yourself talking to clients and prospects and the stuff that you give away as a part of the business that you do, just that knowledge, right? We start there. And Nikki, we spend hours with
Mm-hmm.
our clients in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning just trying to understand what that is and how they uniquely deliver that. And that's the very beginning of our content strategy. That's what we want to talk about first from an email marketing content or from an email marketing perspective. The second thing that we do when we're building an email marketing strategy is we want to understand what the big problem that our customers and our audience has. That
Otherwise known as a pain point.
That's right. We talk about the pain points. You'll hear us talk about that throughout this podcast all the time. It's a marketing key term, pain points, understanding those pain points, and then understanding how we can best provide answers to that in terms of free information. So what that might mean is taking that unique content and that experience driven information that you as the author of that newsletter have, or being able to find it from what we call curated sources. A curated source is something from somewhere else on the internet, right? And we're going and finding it and we're delivering it to our audience in a way that makes it easier for them to find that great stuff. And so then we, as the newsletter author or the content curator, are seen as a knowledgeable expert, even though we're not the original creator of that content. So that's another thing that we do to help develop a content marketing strategy that we're going to deliver through email.
Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about boost open rates. What is that?
So this is another question that we get all the time. Okay, well, what's the KPI to look for in email marketing? Well, the really simple first number to look at is open rates, right? That's our main indicator to know, is our content interesting? Is your content interesting to your audience? And if they're not opening the emails, well, we're doing something wrong, or we can be doing something better,
Or they got spammed.
or we're
Like that.
not.
There's several things to look at.
Yeah, or it's going into that not even if it's not the spam filter, which is a huge problem, but it might be going into that promotions tab in Gmail, or it might be going to a different, caught in a different filter in Gmail. So we do want to make sure that that our subject lines are written in such a way where they don't look spammy. They pose an interesting open thread for the recipient to say, well, that looks interesting. I want to check out and at least see what's inside. If we can't get the open rates up, then it doesn't really matter what's going on inside. So we do test a lot of different things. You're going to want to test putting the recipient's name in the subject line. You're going to want to test. We recommend, and I don't want to say keyword from like an SEO perspective, but a key term that people are familiar with. Put that in the subject line. Yeah, that speaks to them. We like short subject lines. There are a lot of different things you can do to manipulate that, but when it comes down to is testing different styles of subject lines, testing different ways of getting people's attention in that crowded inbox to get them to at least open the email and see what's inside.
So basically you're saying start somewhere that we test. The more content we put out, the better we can test it. So this leads directly up into the next part, which is design and development. So I'll speak on that for a second. Email newsletters do not have to be super shiny and all the bells and whistles. They just don't. And quite frankly, it hurts if they have too many links or if they have photos in it and it looks too robotic almost. Right. Like if it's too curated, it does spam up the inbox. So we look for important, clean, attractive design, simple, very simple. But speaking of which, it needs to look nice. So a lot of people look on their desktop on email, but they also look on their cell phone. So speak on that for a little bit of how important it is to, again, have that very, very clean design, so it translates very well from desktop to cell phone, to iPad. I mean, that's three different screen sizes,
Right.
and we all have them all.
Right. So when we're talking about design, so now we're inside of the email, right? We got people to
Mm-hmm.
open it. Now let's talk about what your emails should look like once people open it up. Just like Nikki said, I like clean, minimalist design.
But good words. Words are so important.
That's right. So the words, your words are going to make the difference. Your fancy looking header will not make a huge difference. Your gifs throughout
It
the
just
the
slows
email,
down the.
it's pretty, it's good to look at, but if those words are not clear, if they don't get my attention and they don't pull me to read in, that one of the first rules of copywriting is that the main purpose, the number one purpose of the first line in an email is to get the reader to read the second line.
Mhm.
And the main purpose of the second line is to get them to read the third line. So if your words, if your content is interesting and you're talking about stuff that genuinely addresses an issue or a problem or a pain point that they
Mhm.
have, then the design is going to be fine. So don't overdo it, especially in the beginning.
Absolutely. Let's take a second and talk about some of the email marketing tools. So platforms. So MailChimp, things like that. Let's
Yes.
talk about that, and how it's a great tool, but you still have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. So I don't have a favorite email marketing
Mm-mm.
platform.
Our clients have used several different ones.
I've used about 1,000, right? Everything from like HubSpot, MailChimp, uh, and kind of everything in between, right? Like your beginner to your full feature marketing automation platform. The principles don't change, right? So when it comes to deliverability, when it comes to design, there's going to be some slight differences there, but there are a few that I just don't like. But I don't think that should be a concern. I think it's important that you find one that meets your current need,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't need the $1,000 a month marketing automation platform if you're just getting started. If you've got 600,000 subscribers, you probably want to upgrade from MailChimp. No offense, MailChimp, if you're watching this video right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So pick a platform that is easy to implement, that's trustworthy. Don't also just try to get the cheapest thing because it's the cheapest, right? Find one that works for you. Find one that you can utilize that clean minimalist design and that you can quickly start focusing on the words that are in that email. So that would be my quick and dirty advice on
Mm-hmm.
the email marketing platform. I think you may have heard of us talk about the funnel, right? The top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. And it's important to understand where email marketing goes in that. We just mentioned how it's not it's not necessarily we're not necessarily focusing on how to get people into that email list
Mm-mm.
right now. We're focusing on the importance and where the role of email marketing plays in your business. And it really is in that middle of the funnel, because as I mentioned, you've got that magic middle of your target audience and of your market and of your community, which is they're not exactly ready to buy right away,
Mm-hmm.
but they're interested enough where they've moved past just the top of the funnel, which is just kind of awareness on social media, perhaps, right?
This is more educational too.
It's so much about education on you. That's one of the first things that we
Mm-hmm.
advise you to do with your newsletter is introduce yourself and your brand and your business to your new subscribers. We want to educate them on your unique value proposition, which is driven by your ability to solve their biggest pain
Mm-hmm.
point. So you introduce yourself, you describe this problem that exists out in the world that they are acutely aware of. And I'll give you an example, right? Let's say a financial advisor, or a lawyer, right? An attorney. Okay, there's a lot about the law. There's a lot about personal finance that I just don't know, right? And it
Mhm.
makes me nervous. I'm not comfortable with the way that I have organized my legal affairs and perhaps my financial life. Okay, so I've tripped on this newsletter by a local attorney or a financial advisor, and it's got my interest. Okay, I'll bite, right? I'll take a look. I'll give my email address so that I can learn more. First thing I get, it's an email with an introduction, and I see names of real people, and
Mhm.
I maybe do see some pictures of the attorneys or the advisors at that firm, right? Or the entrepreneur driving that business. They look like nice family people. I think I can resonate with that. I've got a wife and some kids and a home, right? That is something that makes me feel comfortable. And they're telling me about the unique way that they go about their business. And then immediately after that, I'm getting an email with, "Hey, look, this is a problem. People or there's not enough good information about how to organize your legal affairs or your financial life in a way that makes sense to normal people."
Mhm.
You got me right there, right? That's addressing a problem that I know exists. And now the next series of emails is all about that unique way in which you solve that problem for your audience. Now we throw in stories about how we've done that, how you've done that for others, right? Maybe we remove the names so as to protect the individuals, but we talk about these unique situations that perhaps are relatable to the average person who's going through these things. And that's how we build this content out. And so you are educating them and you're getting them to a point ultimately where they are ready to say, you know what? I trust this person at least enough to get on a call or go have coffee or whatever it is with them. So that's the real magic of the magic middle. I want to toss one at you,
Mhm.
Nick. So you're head of operations.
Yep.
You are a systems girl,
Mhm.
right? You're all about how to make things work on uh, a really well organized timeline, right? So if we are if we're starting a newsletter,
Mhm.
right? If we're adding this process to our business, what are some things you'd recommend doing on the back end to make sure that we stay consistent? Because we've talked at length about how important consistency is.
Google Sheets
Right.
is your first one. Um, well, our what we do in our business is we like to stay 30 days ahead. It's clean. It keeps our entire team focused and ahead. So we don't like redlining it. We like getting ahead, and we do this for our clients as well. But what's great about newsletter as well, just like video we talked about, and they can all play hand in hand, is from a newsletter, we can make social posts to it, for it, from it. So all the content is the same, and that's essentially a campaign. That's a marketing campaign that everything is kind of connected. But on the back end, I mean, the email process that we like to use is we start with a video recording, podcast, even just you talking to the camera. You write it as a newsletter, and we have a template which we like to use, and Reed spoke on curated content. It helps a newsletter in a great deal. But from that, we take social posts from it. But where Google Sheets comes in is it's very organized. So we know about 30 days in advance what we're going to talk about, what we tell our clients to talk about. We pick these topics, and from there, we are able to gather research and social posts and statistics and things like that. But staying ahead, it really is beneficial, instead of trying to sit down and then, okay, oh my goodness, I have to record an hour long podcast, 20 minutes even podcast. That's really hard to do. And then you have to say, wait a minute, I have to connect this to my newsletter, and I also have to connect this to my social posts. Does this have anything to do with my offering? You don't know. So getting ahead of everything, and that is that then you're starting to get to A/B testing to see how did this work to versus this, and you can get ahead of the curve, um, and that's the back end of it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, one simple thing that we recommend is turn on the camera,
Mm-hmm.
start answering questions that you get from your
Yeah, and that that
clients
that
most
is
often.
about the pain points as well.
Mhm.
because you don't want your emails to be so just informational that they don't even like, okay, I know all about the law and I know all about money now, but what do I do?
Right.
Right. So, and we'll help you craft where your call to actions come from, because what I had to learn pretty early on is you don't always put a call to action to buy your stuff
Mm.
on everything you do, right? So like that is very strategic. It's not just buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my
Yeah.
stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, right? You have to warm up your audience, and because then it should be an easy sale from that. If you're helping with a pain point and they say, oh my gosh, this is simple, right? This is a simple buy for me because you're helping me with something that I struggle with, and I know you're you have a lot of experience in this specific type or in this specific area. But I do want to talk about, so we focus on B2B. That's just our agency Rogue Pine. It focuses more on B2B. But guess what? B2C have newsletters too. And it's crazy. I challenge you to look around and look in your inbox and look at every place you go. They'll say, sign up for a newsletter. Sign up for a newsletter. Our school has one. Old Navy has one. Every consumer store has one for coupons, right? Well, you might be thinking, okay, they give coupons out and obviously they have products to sell. How do you do it in a B2B? Like it's a different approach. I'm not going to say it's more challenging. It's just a different approach. So talk about the two, like how it's different.
Right.
If someone is selling a product, how would their newsletters be different to someone selling a service?
Right. So look, the truth is the Old Navy example. I'm not going to be the best person to answer this question, right?
But they have one.
But they got one.
They do.
But if we're talking about B2B versus B2C, which is business to business or business to consumer, right? So if your target audience is a business owner or it is a person making a purchase on behalf of a business, that's B2B, right? If they're making a purchase for some sort of consumer product or consumer good, we'd call that B2C. The thing that I would say is the common thread between the two, and you mentioned something about this a minute ago when you were talking about how to structure the content, is you almost have to fight the urge to try to sell in every section. Now this doesn't apply to the Old Navies, right? All they care about is these are the deals, these are the sales. But unless that's what you're doing, what you have to do is position yourself as a knowledgeable expert on that thing in such a way, and a trustworthy expert. Yeah, in such a way that the person who's reading that newsletter is confident and comfortable to say, I'm willing to take the next step. Now, this is the fine line that you have to walk. This is where you have to balance, and not overselling, but still making a clear, providing a clear pathway to solving that problem, right? If you're looking for help with this, go here, right? If this is a problem for you, click here, go to an appointment booking page or a schedule a call page.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of these newsletters will have free tools inside of them, because they're such abundant with knowledge that they can give it away for free, and that it's a very great thing to have free resources for people to see. Okay, they know what they're talking about. I would actually like to buy this. It's worth that much value. So the really cool thing, and when you get proficient in newsletters, is automation. So we'd actually, believe it or not, people aren't sending emails every day, every second. So when you subscribe, they're not running behind and saying, oh, I got a new one, right? So automation's one of my absolute favorite things, because you build it once and it runs until it needs to be tweaked, right? That's why we test. We run until it needs to be tweaked. So give us a little bit of automation knowledge, what it does and what it's good for, and what it's not good for.
Yeah, so at a high level, marketing automation, the purpose of it is to move people through the funnel, and you're doing that, or you're triggering actions based on the actions of the recipient, right?
If this, then this.
Exactly. It's an if this, then that language, basically, that's behind it all. So if a recipient opens an email or clicks on a certain link in an email, then they will receive a specific email in response to that, right? Click here if you are interested in this, they receive an email that gets them the next piece of information, and so on and so forth. I tell people to tread lightly there, right? Because if you have, I've seen automation run amok that people forget about, and then they're promoting things that are
Don't
no
exist.
longer, yeah, no longer exist, or old pricing or whatever. But that's something that I say to approach that. We're now getting into more advanced tactics that you probably want to have some professional help with. Look, if you've got a team that can implement this, that's fantastic. If you're looking to implement this yourself, I think there are some really useful tools that we will try to provide to you guys on how to build these things on your own. Obviously, we do this for the hundreds of clients that we've worked with over the years. But yeah, marketing automation, it's Jedi level
Yeah,
email
well, the
marketing.
point of saying it is it's so powerful if you
Mm-hmm.
know how to use it. And
Mm-hmm.
just like everything else, there's so many tools, and honestly, it takes us almost a month, and we've seen where it takes 2 months to build
Oh
some of
yeah,
these automations because they're so
easily.
intense. I mean, they break off to several different automations, and that has to be perfect, that has to be perfect. And what's really cool is you can see all the data behind it and where
Right.
people go and where it's getting stuck. So it's where Reed and I nerd out on the marketing side, but it is Reed's right, it's Jedi mind tricks, because it's you build it. Like I said, it could take 2 months, but then it runs for way past 2 months, and then you see what you get from there. So um, I think that's a really good one to talk about next month, to keep going down this newsletter journey. We'd like to stay in this for several months, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so powerful. And Reed, I think you should end at the conclusion. Should just please talk about. So, there for a while, obviously everyone's on social media and, oh, I have followings, and, oh, I got my first 1,000 or million even. And that's valuable in its own way. But really, like, why is email marketing so important in 2024? Like, and it's only going up.
Yeah, look, guys, I've been in this digital marketing game since 2007, right? We are knocking on the door of, what is that, 17 years. We're knocking on the door of 2 decades, right? And email marketing has stood the test of time unlike any other channel or any other platform or any other tactic. The reason is that it consistently produces results. There's something about that connection that you have with a person on a
Mhm.
platform that you own, right? When a
Say it
person,
again. Say it
yeah,
again.
it's an owned relationship, meaning when you are, let's say you've got followers on X or Facebook or Instagram, you are renting
Mhm.
that audience.
And they
If
decide to change the algorithm.
Which they have done time and time again. We had a client years ago that had over 100,000 likes on Facebook, which, even
Mhm.
saying it that way feels weird because that's not really how we calculate followership on Facebook anymore. But what that meant at the time was that they could put out content, they could put out a post on Facebook and get 30,000 likes, 12,000 comments, and they'd create 150 sales opportunities with every post.
Mhm.
Facebook changed their algorithm. Crickets. They had not invested the time prior to us working with them on building their email newsletter. Thankfully, that was something we had started, and they're a healthy business. In fact, I think looking back, probably 5-6 years ago, they sold to a big business for a whole bunch of money, right?
Mhm.
Part of it, or most of it, was built on the help of that email newsletter, that email list. So the staying power is one thing, and the fact that you own the relationship is a big deal.
And you can use social media to gain following on your email marketing.
Yeah.
We're not saying they don't use that because
Mm-hmm.
it's you don't own it. No, no, no. Use it to your advantage, and bring people in your
Yeah.
realm. Like, you want them in your realm. You do not want them out
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So,
Put simply, social
mhm,
media should be a means to an end, and that end should be to turn
mhm.
them into email subscribers. All right, guys. So if you're hearing us talk about email marketing, if you're doing this yourself, I hope you'll take these tips and you'll implement it in your own business. If you've got a team that is doing your marketing for you, then send this to them, have them implement these things. But if you are an advisor, you're an attorney, you're a small business owner, and you're thinking, hey, we really should be doing this, and we don't have anybody internal or a team, then maybe we can help, right? Rogue Pine is our agency. We've got a new service that we're rolling out called We Build Newsletters, and it does exactly that. So if that's something that would be of interest to you, we'll make sure there's a link in the description here. Go check that out, schedule a call with us, and we'll talk about how we can help.
Absolutely.